How can a woman rape a man?
I think that an older woman can manipulate a young kid, and I don't think it's really healthy. I don't think it's healthy for a kid who's going to be 14 with 2 kids out in the world. I think those children will grow up fairly damaged. I think that kid's going to grow up fairly damaged.
So you're on her side?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a damn shame, Bill Maher. A damn shame. I just wanted to say that.
Would you have been able to take care of 2 kids?
Oh, I would have been able to take care of her.
Is a 14-year-old really able to understand what it takes to raise a child and be like a father figure and a man?
In most of societies in human history, 14-year-olds were fathers.
Okay, so it's just a look back on this bullshit. And I actually did a whole thing on him regarding not only that topic, but him promoting rape in general, and then how you should like force yourself on somebody until she like says yes. And then one of his stories was one girl came over to his place and he fought her all night long, and then she had some drinks, and then finally somebody gave in. And he puts this out there like no F's about it. Plus he was like one of the big ones, I guess, over at Hef's Match and, you know, in a human trafficking ring, that crap over there. So at random, I mean, I don't know. Like, he just comes out, like, with this bullshit, and I'm just like, yeah, did you, like, forget something? Like, yesterday, fool? Yeah, so he's like, he unloads on the left. Now he wants to attack the left. Okay. Even though they're all a problem. Like, everyone in this is a problem, okay? There's no good side. But he wants to go with the left now, okay? But even back then, he took a stance that being a pedophile was totally fine, right? And that everybody's wrong and he's right, and we have to listen to him. I go, this is how you know you're on the right stance. Because you go back to the 90s and something you stood upon was totally wrong. And then today it's like totally wrong. You're still wrong. And they don't get a clue. Like, they don't. Like, there's no shame to him. He's such a socio. But then he says something else in here that to me flags me more on him. Like, I would never want him around kids, okay? Bill. Okay, so beyond hearing him promote, you know, adults on children to begin with, and treating little boys as like you can't rape them. Okay, so this is actually what he was saying. He's like, you can't rape a boy. Okay, he was going on this thing. So then, and then he was talking about raping women, and that asking for consent. Oh yeah, one of the things was asking for consent will ruin his whole job, you know, like his whole thing in the middle of it. So you'll ruin him being a rapist, okay? You can't ask consent. Okay, that was these are his comments from eons. Okay, and apparently he's a good friend of Howard Stern. Okay, yeah, this makes sense. Okay, so the HBO host slammed drag queen story hours being more for Queen than the kids, which literally makes no sense. It just doesn't. It's just like, I don't know what they're trying to go here. Okay, so they're trying to link the left's indoctrination of gender ideology of children to entrapment. The thing, okay, if you're a really educated person, okay, if you're a really educated person, you will know that the gender identities are a human made-up concept, okay? It's a human made-up concept. Nobody was born with this idea of what a man or a woman is. Those things just did not exist. So it's from humans, right? So humans came up with these ideas. And those ideas actually changed throughout history. Like, men used to wear dresses. They used to have long hair. They used to have these things, right? And you see it change throughout, you know, history. So it's not actually it's not like you're born that way. That's the identity you are. It's a made-up concept by humans to try to identify or differentiate groups of people, and it's very faulty, right? It's just, you know, tomorrow we could all be, you know, women wear pants all day and men wear skirts. It could totally change like that. That doesn't identify you as an individual, really, but it's just, again, it's a made-up concept, and colors change too as well. Like, it used to be pink for men, and, you know, that whole bullshit, but anyway. Okay. So you're teaching these kids that, right? So you're putting an ideology into the kid's head that we were all groomed, okay? Basically, as kids, as being told, you are like this and you're different from that. And you can't do the things that these boys do as girls can do this. So that's a made up concept by humans. This was their idea. And there's nothing to base it off. Like, you weren't born to be like that. It's just something that they came up with because of religious indoctrination. It's funny that Bill, I don't know if he considers himself atheist or whatever the bullshit is, but he's quite Christian in a lot of his ideology. That's why I said, none of these people, like, they claim they're this and that, but they still hold those views of that religion. And, the male supremacist part, they really like it. Okay, so he has called out Disney's battle with Florida, saying he wasn't wrong. Left will overlook child effing if the guy from the wrong party calls it out. Okay, but what about you? Like, well, what about you? It's kind of this thing, right? It's like everybody's a problem in here, and there is a truth to the portion that when you tell the other political party that this thing's going on, then they cover it up, right? They'll totally put blinders on, but they both do it, right? They both do it. So there's that. But the biggest hypocrisy here is him who was promoting child rape is trying to act like he's above this whole conversation. That's the insanity of this rant. Then he goes, as one of these few people in the public eye who's going to go through life and never had kids, someone has to tell me why I'm always having to defend them. I don't even like kids. Okay, somebody that says something like this, I would never let them around kids, okay? It's kind of a flag that they may abuse them. They may allow abuse on them. I don't know why you wouldn't like kids. It's almost like a serial killer that likes to kill animals for fun. It's just like this mentality of, I don't know why you don't like kids. I mean, that's just kind of a weird thing to throw out there. But anyway, he's saying it, and it makes sense when you go back to his old comments of like, how can you rape this boy? He's such a socio. Like, he doesn't even care like what happens to kids, and he's trying to act here like it's fake presentation, okay? He just wants to say something to make himself sound great. He's such a narcissist too as well in this thing. He's like, but I also think it's every adult's job to protect them. Well, yeah, that's true. You don't like them and you wouldn't protect them, which you didn't in your comments. And thank God you don't have kids. Let's put it this way. Thank God you don't have kids. Okay, so Maher addressed the Wiley Talk docu-series Quiet on the Set. Okay, yeah, but you promoted boys to be raped. You said they can't be raped. So, inevitably, by his promotion and his loud mouth to the public, caused that to happen in a unison, right? With everybody who was promoting all the kids to get raped, right? Yes. So he's part of the culture that allowed boys, anybody technically, to get raped. Okay. So he's promoting rape. You cannot promote rape on one group of people and not just generally promote rape, which we did see he generally promotes rape. And then he had an allegation from one other person up in here for his misconduct. And then, yeah, so I would never let him around kids, just generally. I don't even like kids. Well, would you let somebody around kids like that? No. He's a guy that would totally, like, punch him out. He's the one that would totally abuse him and be like, God. Probably around that time period, you're talking about the late 90s, early 2000s, out that era right there. But this is when he was promoting it. So little boys couldn't come out and say, hey, you know, I got raped, because he's promoting it and the general population was promoting it. So Bill Maher inevitably had his hands on those kids. Basically. Okay, so the reason we find pedophiles in the Boy Scouts. Okay, I'm actually kind of tired of this, like, sort of genericing down, like, where the pedos are. They're everywhere, okay? So, I mean, they're not just in the Boy Scouts. But he's like, you know, because this is where the kids are. And DeSantis wasn't wrong. But we're so tribal now. The left will overlook child effing if the guy from the wrong party calls it out. HBO host denying the drag queen story. Okay, do you write it, the drag queen story hour trend, saying it's time to admit that it's sometimes more for the queen than the kids. Sure, kids love a clown. But does the clown have to have tits? Okay, it doesn't matter. Like, so do you say this about a woman going in there and talking to kids and reading a book? Why is your focus on somebody's body parts? Like, what's wrong with you? It's bizarre, right? So this is how see, I told you, the LGBTQ issue is actually dealing with male supremacy, where they look down on women, right? The whole root of that whole thing is about females. So he just like degraded them down to a body part. Like, why is that your focus? Kids are going to be around it. Kids are very well aware of women's breasts. I mean, they kind of have to get breastfed, something that men don't do. But anyway, yeah, I mean, unless they want to have some playtime amongst themselves. So, and it says, when I see a 5-year-old tipping at a bar under a sign that says it's not going to lick itself, do I have to pretend that's cool in order to keep my liberal ID card? Sorry, I can't do that. I have no clue what he's talking about right there. I don't, you guys. I said it before, wokeness is not an extension of liberalism anymore. It's more often talking something so far that it's become the opposite. Teaching kids not to hate or judge those who are different. Great. Proud we got there for all that. But at a certain point, inclusion becomes promotion. No, I'll tell you what promotion is. That fucking thing he did promoting adult women on little boys. That was an outright promotion. How can you rape a little boy? She's in love. That's my stance. Okay. And contrary to progressive dogma, children aren't miniature adults wise beyond their years. They're morons. Okay. Exactly. Would you have this guy around your kids? He's gonna go, you little morons, get over. He sounds like that evil grandpa that, you know, the kids are like, I don't like being here, and then your parents like force you to be around him, and then he like is ready to like beat your ass. Anyway, he's like calling them a bunch of morons. They're gullible morons. And they show little kids, like they're showing little kids. So we're not even talking about teens. He's going at that. They're gullible morons who believe anything and just want to please grown-ups. And they don't have any frame of reference, so they normalize whatever is happening. And that's why endlessly talking about gender to 6-year-olds isn't just inappropriate. It's what the law would call entrapment. What? No, which means enticing people into doing something they wouldn't ordinarily do. That's not true. Every parent, or at least I shouldn't say every parent, a lot of parents already at that little age there start talking about gender, so we understood, you know, different things about it. And so that would definitely include reality of other people. I'm glad I got a little bit of this as a kid because, like I said, we had gay people in our family. We had a lesbian in our family, but we also had some gay friends. And then, so it wasn't in this big topic, but they would just go, oh, they're Mahu. And I was like, oh, what is that? They're like, you know, it's like being happy. It's like this thing. And yeah, the way they explained it to me was like, okay. My mom, anyway. My mom wasn't the one that was like anti any of that. So they just, the way they explained it was just like, yeah, they're just them, you know, in Hawaii, this thing, that thing. And I don't know. There was some explanation to this where it's like, there's nothing wrong with it. And so I never even questioned it. You know, I was like, okay. You know, because I wasn't taught, I didn't have a Bill Maher. Now, you tell this to a kid like Bill Maher, child abuse. I'm just glad I didn't have this, like, it's so weird because it was at a time where it was so not acceptable, and my family just kind of like, eh. And it might have just been a way to just kind of brush off the topic too, even, but they didn't go into this anti and hate speech. That's why I said that was some of the good portions in my childhood, even amongst all that abuse. Like there was actually some positive messaging in that, you know, where it wasn't like, oh, be a piece of shit to everybody. You should hate this group of people. There's something wrong with those people. They didn't do that. But he's doing that. Why do you think he's doing that? He's a damn rapist. He's an out and proud rapist. And he was talking about, you cannot sit there and promote kids to be raped and you not be a pedophile. Let's put it that way. It would be highly impossible for somebody to promote being with a child and not also be a pedophile. This, to me, seems like a way for him to fake present so you don't look at him as a horrible human that might be into kids. And then he's like going over the top, right? I hate kids. That didn't seem likely in the earlier stuff, did it? We didn't hear him say, I hate that kid. He's like, I would show that adult this and that and this and that, and I don't see nothing wrong with that. Uh-huh. So you need to be careful of these predators, because this is the kind of shit they'll do. And they'll start fake presenting and making themselves seem like they're against a thing, and they're actually not. And it sounds a little bit more like this. Also doing the over the top thing. We should do the DP for anybody that touches kids under 12. But 12 is okay. That's the message. 12 is okay, but under 12 is bad. They're not against 12 and over. That's the thing. So the boy that we were talking about, what he was talking about in the clip was 14, but he said, oh, they got together a little earlier than that. Maybe they were 12, right? So then he also pointed out in that old clip, or they pointed out in the old clip, which was rather interesting and disturbing. He's like, throughout history, dads were they were 14 years old. That's right. So what are we talking about? The mass child sexual abuse from white men throughout history. And they raped children, and you guys were a bunch of pedophiles. So you indoctrinated the sons, you got them raped, and you allowed them to rape other people. There's a whole thing to this, right? That was really bad. He brought up. I was like, oh, I didn't hear that on the other snippet, because I watched that thing a million times over. The people that put this other one up put a longer version of it. And, yeah, that's what they said. So, like, he's like, oh, because in the past, all these kids were getting raped. There's nothing wrong with it. Well, in the past, there was slavery, so, I guess there's nothing wrong with it. This was the same type of argument that Sink had, on the progressive side, where it was like, all the dads got the sons raped. I mean, it couldn't be rape because everybody got raped. Yeah, I was just like, I have no idea what freaking tree they fell out of. This type of thinking. And that's how you start to know, oh God, these people are really dumb. I was like, no, they're really dumb. Like, Bill's just an idiot. But I honest to God, kids and pray. Yeah, he honestly is fake presenting. He's fake presenting. You don't hold an ideology or a stance. I am pro raping little boys, and then all of a sudden today you're like, no, that's not what happens. You're for it or you're not. You seem for it, and you hate kids. So why would you care what happens to children? If you hate kids, why would you care what happens to them? Really? I mean, that's kind of the interesting thing here, Bill. Keep them away from your kids. Kid and pray. Yeah, that's you, kid and pray. Bill's the prey. He's going to prey on your kids. That's how you read these people. What else does he say? He says more. And if you think that someone isn't going on with gender in schools, you're not watching enough TikTok videos. Before showing clips of teachers touting gender ideology, there's a certain kind of activist these days who want to take heterosexuality, old school, old-fashioned, boring, minding its own business heterosexuality, and lump it in with the patriarchy and sex and racism, and tell kids, wouldn't it be cool if you're anything but that? Yeah, because male supremacy is basically a sociopath. And I've been trying to teach that, to understand that thing right there. To be a male supremacist, you have to be a sociopath. And Bill, you fit Bill. Yeah. He continued, it also seemed to be the theme of kind of lots of kids' books these days. I never use the phrase gay agenda because I thought it was mostly nonsense, and it is mostly, but a director for Disney television animation did say that after she was hired, the showrunners were super welcoming to my not-so-secret gay agenda. Okay, so he concluded, I'm all for adding queerness wherever, but maybe we should think about giving kids a break from our culture wars for a minute, or at least until the election is over. Oh, we should say on your side, because you're a sociopath male supremacist, so that is the ideology that it must be taught to kids. He promoted it. It's literally online. He promoted it also within a book or something. He was trying to do a book. He also promoted this conduct with Playboy. He promoted this conduct completely about no consent. Well, no consent is rape. So this is him fake presenting. Again, he's actually for it more than he's not against it. Trust that. What he's for is for male supremacy, which the ideology is no consent and let me force myself on you, and asking for consent is bad. That's his ideology, and women are just here for his pleasure. Yes, indeed, you wouldn't have been hanging out at the human trafficking mansion, would you? No, that's him. Anyway, let's read the comment of 7 years ago, and there's only two, so at least somebody called them slime. Well, they said slime balls. Are you talking about everybody on the panel? I mean, who are you talking about, dude? Anyway, that was the single one. This one is the one that was like, okay. They blame women for this, right? And there's literally not a woman on this panel that's agreeing with nobody getting busted, right? So on the panel, there's 4 people, and then pile of, you know what, Bill. Okay, so the 2 women on there are saying, dude, this shit is wrong. The 2 other guys are saying, this shit is wrong. There's literally no one on this panel agreeing with Bill. Bill is the one promoting raping little boys. Okay, so the comment starts off like this from Nicholas. So this shows how much they hate women, because they're like, didn't women fight so hard for equal treatment under the law? Did you miss like the whole thing about it? It's men promoting it, and men made the laws, right? And Bill even pulled out that y'all got raped like the whole throughout history. I mean, technically they pulled it out. It's just he's looking at child rape as being a normal thing, basically, because he's an idiot. And they go, well, they all got equal protection. No, actually, did you? No, we never did actually. But rarely face equal treatment in many situations when compared to adult males. Technically, adult males have been getting away with this whole thing. Bill would be up in a human trafficking ring. Everybody got up in here and nobody busted, okay? For the majority, no. If this 35-year-old woman knowingly broke the law and deserved punishment for committing statutory rape, yes, everybody on the panel agrees with you, Jude. The other thing on the panel, which was crazy, that they were mentioning on the story, was that they let him out on bond and let the perpetrator somehow connect with the victim again. Could somebody explain that one? Okay, I understand Bill's point. Okay, so you're feeling some empathy for Bill. It is somewhat different when the minor is male. No? Okay. And the adult is female. So this is where that indoctrination came in. And this is what it sounds like in real life when you got indoctrinated. You got indoctrinated because in order for you to say this line, it's idiotic, right? So it's idiotic. We're out of the cult, so we know what sounds idiotic. So this sounds idiotic. I understand his point. It's somewhat different when a minor is male. Why? Can you riddle me that? Why is it different? Can you tell me why it's different? What Bible did you get that from? I mean, that's what I'm saying. That's indoctrination right there. And the adult is female. However, it is disgusting argument to make. I don't know how you hold those two things together. I really don't, but this is what they're saying. It's painful, right? And I remember this era because there's a lot of comments online where everything's like, yeah, I guess maybe it's a gray area. I was like, oh God, yeah, okay. So this is from indoctrination. This is from kids just barely, like an adult, barely coming to it that y'all got touched. Okay, so it says, it is still okay if the boy's only 12 years old? Okay, so they were not having too much of a problem with the 14, but they're like, that 12? Yeah, okay. What laws and what state is okaying any of this? Okay, just generally speaking. Bill is basically telling you that, you know, if she's 12. Okay, how about if he's 9 or 10? How about if he's younger than that? I can't believe he was making this argument in 1998. Yeah, but you're kind of there, though. You're like, I understand his point. Why do you understand his point? He made no good point in here at all. But yeah, in 1990, I told you I got touched and raped throughout this whole thing here. You, the public, were promoting it. Now, this Nicholas could be a young person. It's hard to tell, actually. I was like, maybe they're I don't know. They could be really young here. They're old enough now. Like they're old enough now, so I could drag them. No. I think this person is a younger person. Anyway, at the time that they posted that. But anyway, it says making this argument in 1998 in our country built on individual liberty. You pretty much reap what you sow. Break the law and get caught. Pay the price, even if you have a vagina. It's like, what the hell is that? Did you know that? And this is the thing that's painful about this, is that they disregard who made those laws to begin with. They literally just disregard it. I'm like, Christian men. Christian men made those laws. And I just pulled up a new thing where it's still legal to rape your wife. And technically, it was they put it under spouse but men never were considered that they could be raped. So under these laws, it was like, you could rape your wife. Okay, those are still on book, and there's 11 states, I believe, it said, that still have it on book. I'm like, wow, you guys said you were not rapists. I mean, who would make a law to rape us? I mean, it wasn't women. It wasn't women going, oh yeah, make it legal to rape us in marriage. That wasn't women. And if any women okayed that, is because they're a cult follower and, that thing. So they're trying to remove that shit. It was men. That's why I keep saying it was men. It's not hate speech. That's a fact. The only type of people that'll be friends with Bill Maher are people that hate women completely and are okay with like raping kids. I mean, basically. That we're fine with sexualizing children, degrading them, being a pile of shit to women, generally, that whole thing. Yes, those are the only friends that he does have. Some worse than others. Yeah, if he has any. And I was saying, I thought it was so funny that him and Trump don't get along. I go, they're almost exactly alike. I go, these wars are basically against people that are so similar in nature that they're having a power trip. Technically, he's like Trump, and then he's scared of Trump, which was hilarious. I go, and then all these women are battling Trump, and Bill's over here like, I'm so scared, and I'm like, that's hilarious. That's just ridiculous. But yeah, that was the whole thing. They were going at it with each other, and then he starts getting fear because he becomes president, and then he starts this whole bullshit, and now he's just like flipping around, going with Fox and or all these other people and saying, oh, I agree with the dude in Florida, like an idiot. I go, those people are not really anti-touching kids. And, even though they did a DP, essentially what they're saying was okay as long as there's 12. Just wait a couple days after their birthday, dude, you'll be fine. Yeah, I mean, these stances are just, they're men fake presenting, and it's a political plot so that women, basically us, sit there and get sucked into it and think, oh, this guy's good, he's going after it. When technically, no, actually they're saying the opposite. Do you guys know anybody like this where they're like, I'm totally fine and down with raping kids, and then all of a sudden, like 10 years later, they're like, oh, you know what, I'm not really into that anymore, but he never said he wasn't. That's another thing. He's just saying, he's flipping it away from him, like the attention away from him, going, look at the hypocrisy of them. And they're trying to make it sound like, some of these people make it sound like, oh, if they just go into therapy for a little bit, they're going to be totally fine. No. In fact, I would assume that a lot of them should be in it probably lifelong, so they don't act out. I mean, mostly these ones that are acting out on this stuff. But other people that are promoting it, Bill's promoted it forever. So, I mean, he promoted generally rape. So, if you're promoting rape generally, you typically wouldn't be against raping kids. That's kind of what we found in this whole problem here, because you just have a disrespect for any human. And then the topic of where they don't really care about the gender, but they'll have gender preferences, but they technically, it wouldn't really bother them either way. And also for the public, which might be interesting, because I remember this whole time period where people were going through this. You weren't really able to solidly hit the topic. Like, do you guys recall, like, they would bring this up and people would throw that gray area. Like, nobody was really solid. Like, they weren't solid. Because even on here, they're saying, well, a kid can consent. Well, technically, they can never consent. But I know what they're trying to say. Like, they're trying to explain the different types of situation, but there's at no time could a kid consent. So they're being groomed. So they didn't use the term groomed here really, but yeah, at this period it was really like, we pretty much think it's wrong, but it's not very hard. Like today we can annihilate him on this topic, right? But in 98, there was a lot of people that are like, I think it's wrong. It's probably not a good thing. But the majority of the public was Bill Maher. This is a TV show, but there was actually like 4 sane people on here. The general population was Bill Maher going on like this. These men, and mostly if you were hanging out at the Playboy Mansion, most of those guys, yeah, they were running off like this. Yeah, could you dress like a little schoolgirl for me and act like you're 12? Okay, yeah, these dudes. There's a lot to be said about it. That's why I said nobody was real hard solid on the topic. They were trying to hit it, but today we can explain a lot of things much better than at this time period. But these people were pretty, actually for 98, I'm surprised that all 4 people were like, we're against this. So, and then what I found out was Rollinser was a child victim too, I guess, and which I didn't know, and I don't think it was really brought up here. But then I don't know about the other 3, but the 2 women were discussing that, saying no, it's wrong. They were saying it's wrong, so it's not women. That's why I'm like, I don't understand why you would come back and go, women want equality. And I was like, we're not the ones that made that law. And we're not the ones that promoted raping 14-year-old boys. It was actually as low as 7, the age of 7, throughout historical times here. And then I think there was periods where there wasn't anything. It's very all over the place. And no, they were children all over the place. They were into kids the whole time. That's why I go, when you bring up the Catholic Church thing now, it's just kind of a ridiculous topic on top of it, because it's kind of like, it wasn't a secret after all. It's like, oh, they raped everybody and they were promoting it all over the place and it was in the laws. So it wasn't just like underground, secret, nothing. Like, it was almost just like they said, we're going to disregard all the laws in the states of what they did throughout history here, and how the church did that openly, the men of the church. And then they made it all legal to rape everybody. And then, therefore, that would happen because it was okayed. And they didn't see that raping little boys was a thing. And then, but raping little boys, being with boys in their mind was bad. But raping a little boy wouldn't have been considered the boy being a victim. They were looking at it like they're both sinners and they're equally to blame. Kind of that thing. So you need to understand the ideology of the Christian cult. Because the Christian cult was never against raping children. They were against doing those things outside the context of marriage. So as long as a 10-year-old got married to the person, it's fine. It was kind of that thing. They were not against being a pedophile. Trust that. I also wanted to lastly point out, okay, so he's calling out the hypocrisy of the left, but not at the time when they kicked off Milo, and both of them were equally as bad, but at least one was trying to point out, like, yeah, I was a victim, this was wrong, blah, blah, blah. It's not an excuse for him promoting that crap, but here, Bill was probably about 10 times worse than the crap that he was saying as far as this conduct goes, because some of the things I wanted to point out on that thing, Milo's a hot mess, okay? We all know that. We're not even promoting Milo over here. But we're talking about this topic, this specific topic, where he was saying some things that actually had some truths in them. And he's talking about the gay community. And I go, okay, so we don't want to promote like certain things about, I don't know, he kind of went a little overboard on some of those things. But some things he was pointing out, which was revolving around these gay men and them being kind of monstrous, okay, on some level. And they go, okay, yeah. So then they're pulling out I was calling them gay monsters, because they're like gay men that try to, when they go perpetrate on other people, try to justify them going at little boys. And as you see, when you go right here, back to this portion right here, oh, it's just not the same of us being with little boys, because touching little boys is not a big deal. Okay, Yeah, it's going to that. And they all got groomed and touched and they normalized this whole behavior. That deals with the male portion of things. So it was important. There was a point to be made in some of the things they were saying, which we're seeing it now, right? It's kind of come around now, but I wanted to tackle it at the time of when this fool tried to, do this bullshit with them, because I was like, oh no, wait a minute. That's actually where we needed to go. Like, it was kind of like this thing. I go, we need to dig into that right there. Because I was already on top of this like topic like the whole time. So, but the public was like, shut it down, and Bill Maher's totally fine. I'm like, how in the hell did they come to this? So they wanted to play politics here. And as I said, anybody that starts playing the political game know that they're a problem, and they probably touch some kids, because it ain't have nothing to do with politics. Nothing. Zero. But they use politics to manipulate us to pretend that they're against it and they're going to do something about it. As you see, they haven't done shit about it, right? You have to look at the outcome, what has happened since, right? Murdering people because of it is not a solution to the problem. And in fact, I just pulled up a story when I was pulling up the other story with the guy like taping underskirts at Target. There was actually a female in, I believe, the UK, where they made a law about it and this and that and this and that. And apparently she wanted to kind of walk it back a little bit. I don't know why, but other than she was trying to say that she didn't feel it was the solution. But you wouldn't want to walk back them getting criminalized for it. But you do also, it's like a and also. You don't want to pull back on the accountability portions there, okay? But the solutions is the thing that I'm looking at when we're looking at the origin of it, because when you look at the origin of it and you can find out where it came from and why it was occurring in the childhood portion, and it's fixable, more than likely fixable only in that portion. And because of that, then you need to know where that is, what that is, all that information about it. And that's pretty much the only area that you can come in and cut that out. I mean, to be honest, but it's a catch-22. When you have a public that's a majority of idiots and perpetrators, they're teaching their kids that, right? So anything that's in the environment, they're picking up. And it's very hard to tackle that issue right there until like the majority is not coming out this way, right? Thankfully, like the majority is still kind of a Bill Maher because we're just kind of growing old with the same terrible people. The people that are kind of making a difference, I think, or the people like us who, we tackled things long ago and we started, working this thing out and we started speaking up. But the younger generations that are coming up, making sure that they're not turning into this thing right here. And that's how you can kind of, I guess, get into this area. Because outside of it, no. You think you could talk Bill Maher into switching a side after he promoted being with children? Kids. So why would he care about children topics? Don't you think that's creepy that Bill Maher hates kids so much and he's on top of children topics? That's what I'm saying. I go, beware of these dudes.